Unbelievable. There's news articles, because the news isn't real. Nothing is real. That say that I got lit up by Chelsea Handler, which is very, very funny because that's not what happened at all.
Tony Hinchcliffe finally responded, and he responded exactly how you would expect Tony Hinchcliffe to respond. After the Kevin Hart roast, Tony became one of the main names in the backlash. People were already upset about the George Floyd joke, the Cheryl Underwood joke, and the general feeling that the roast had crossed from brutal comedy into something uglier. Chelsea Handler later criticized Tony and Shane Gillis on Dion Cole's podcast, calling some of the material racist, bigoted, sexist, and disgusting. She especially pointed at Shane's lynching joke and Tony's joke about Cheryl's late husband. Then, on the latest episode of Kill Tony, Tony went into attack mode.
We just got in. We're fresh off of Los Angeles live last night. The roast of Kevin Hart was something else, huh? It's the first time I've been called a Nazi multiple times in just a few hours. I guess that's what LA writers' rooms, all these, a lot of mentally ill liberals out there that somehow with all these fucking blacks and Jews and Mexicans around me, I guess I'm a fucking Nazi somehow. I guess the guy that pulls names out of a bucket giving everybody an opportunity is a Nazi. Isn't that something? I was called that by a bunch of people that have never written anything in their lives, that literally have just been reading cue cards and teleprompters every project they've ever done, with the inability to improvise whatsoever, no opportunity to have their own thought. They just read what the writers wrote for them without any originality whatsoever.
He didn't come out sounding humbled. He didn't give some careful PR apology. He did what he always does. He turned the criticism into more material. And that's the Tony Hinchcliffe brand. He's a roast comic. His whole career is built around saying the thing that makes the room tense, then daring people to laugh. Kill Tony itself is a weekly pressure cooker where unknown comics get judged in public, sometimes brutally. So when Tony gets criticized, his instinct is not to explain himself softly. His instinct is to roast the critics. That is why his response to Chelsea was predictable. From Tony's point of view, Chelsea was not some outsider watching from home. She was part of the same roast. She got on stage, made her own jokes, took part in the same event, then later came out acting disgusted by the room. That gives Tony an easy counter-argument. You were there, you played the same game, and now you want to act like you were above it.
And the writers I used to work with, there's a few great writers in that writer's room, and the rest of them are just living in a bubble of mental illness, and it's very exciting. But, I mean, the most of it, you know what I mean? I got called a Nazi, gay, a racist over and over again. I'm none of those three things, a little fun fact. But they are they are fat, ugly, black, and Jewish. Everything I said was real about them, just a reminder. Because I woke up today, and even though every human that I've seen told me that it was unbelievable, there's news articles, because the news isn't real, nothing is real, that say that I got lit up by Chelsea Handler, which is very, very funny because that's not what happened at all. You can't believe anything you see or read on the news anymore. You have to actually watch the thing for yourself. She was a bit of a I'll tell you that.
But Chelsea's criticism is not completely empty either. A comic can take part in a roast and still think certain jokes were lazy or ugly. Cheryl Underwood herself gave a more complicated reaction. She understood the roast environment, but later said some of the material was in poor taste, including the George Floyd joke and Shane's lynching-related joke. That's why this debate keeps going. It's not as simple as comedy is dead or Tony is evil. A roast audience may understand the rules. George Floyd's family, Cheryl's family, and regular viewers at home never agreed to those rules. The Riyadh Comedy Festival part is where Tony had a stronger point.
She just kept coming at me over. She said I took the Saudi Arabia money. She was like wrong about things. The writers just didn't do her any justice. But then the teleprompter, the fun fact, the teleprompter only went down during my set, and it gave me a lot of opportunity to remind Chelsea Handler what she looks like and where her life is.
Chelsea's side apparently tried to hit him with a joke connecting him to the Riyadh Comedy Festival controversy, basically putting him in the bucket of comics who took Saudi money. But that accusation was sloppy if it was aimed at Tony. The wider Riyadh controversy involved major names like Kevin Hart, Dave Chappelle, Bill Burr, Louis C.K., Pete Davidson, Whitney Cummings, and others, while Shane Gillis was reported as someone who criticized the event and turned down an offer. That's why Tony going off on Chelsea's writers makes sense. In roast comedy, the joke can be cruel, but the target has to be right. If you accuse somebody of doing something they didn't do, you've handed them the comeback. And for someone like Tony, that's blood in the water.
Because she had it coming. You know, everybody wants to go up early in those things, and they put a lot of the people that they know will do good at the end, which is fucking bullshit, because some people turn off the television before that happens. And so what they don't realize, though, because they want to go up early when the crowd's all fresh, is that I'm sitting there watching what they're doing. So when Chelsea kept coming at me, I'm like, oh, my job. Anyway, it was fun. We're back home. Shout out to the Roastmaster General Jeff Ross, our Kill Tony family that was there, the great Big J. Okerson crushed, and of course, the powerful Shane Gillis dominated hosting the show. I woke up looking like Chelsea Handler. That's how rough my night was. I just had like that Botox swollen, inflamed face that just, you know, seems like you used to be successful 15 years ago and you're not anymore. You know what I mean? I just like felt like that. Worst feeling. Thank God. Then I just took a 2-hour nap and I was back to being one of the best in the world. And shoot. No, I'm kidding. Shut up. You guys know how the show works. Over 200 innocent souls signed up for this. Some of them.
So Tony has two arguments happening at once. On the Riyadh point, he can say Chelsea's writers were lazy and got the facts wrong. On the George Floyd backlash, the issue is harder. There, the question is not whether the joke was accurate. The question is whether a joke about George Floyd's death becomes something else once Netflix packages it, promotes it, and sends it to millions of people. Tony responding on Kill Tony was never going to calm things down. That show is built for escalation. He saw the criticism, saw the weak Riyadh angle, and turned the whole thing into another roast. For his fans, that's why they like him. For his critics, that's exactly the problem.